All right, Mr. Furry Avatar Man, Mr. Ratchet himself. How are we doing tonight?
Oh, we doing good, man. What's up, bro?
Not much.
So let's talk about why you believe Chinese people are raping and killing Uyghurs.
Can you state my argument correctly, or is that hard for you to do?
Wait, what do you mean? You believe in genocide, right? In the forced sterilization.
Okay, so forced sterilization isn't rape. So let's be clear about what I'm saying.
Wait, it's rape though, because it's being forced. Isn't that rape?
Sterilization isn't a sex act. So they are being forcibly sterilized, which is also bad. Just want to make sure we're using the right words. Okay. They're not necessarily being killed. I don't see any evidence of that. I see evidence that they are basically trying to force down the birth rate, which their birth rate has gone down. And I'm seeing forced labor camps, the concentration camps that they have them in, basically the intimidation of families in ways that Han Chinese are not intimidated when they violate family planning laws. And the evidence that I see for this is from government statistics from the Chinese government, state documents, interviews with ex-detainees. A former camp instructor has come out with evidence. Sorry.
In my opinion, the evidence is not concrete, right? In other people's opinions, they think that those evidence, it's enough. It's like concrete, so they're gonna believe that Chinese people are raping Chinese Muslims. But in my opinion, I don't believe that because the evidence is not concrete. But in China's info, their evidence is more concrete. That is why it's more believable.
It's not that it's being done by random Chinese people. It's that's being done by the Chinese government and agents of the government. That would specifically be the claim, not that random Chinese people are going around killing the Muslims.
That doesn't make any sense. That means you're saying the Chinese government admits that they're doing forced sterilization.
I'm saying that government statistics and documents that were not supposed to be leaked from the government were, and that is why we know about the specifically documents that Andrew Zenz gave. Okay, so when you say that the evidence is not concrete, what concrete evidence would you need to be convinced that this is true?
Actual footages with the right context of Chinese Muslims getting raped by Chinese people.
Okay, so
is the concrete evidence.
Again, I'm specifically talking about the
but there's no such footage of that.
Excuse me. I'm specifically talking about the forced labor camps, the forced sterilizations. I'm not talking about whatever random rape thing you're talking about from one specific instance.
Okay. So you're saying forced labor, but in my opinion, it seems like they're doing labor to make money, and when they make money, they make a better living out of themselves. They need to learn skills, and it's called vocational training centers.
So. No, a lot of these people are, sometimes it is true that they're convinced to go to these camps because of marketing that's sent out. A lot of these people are sent there against their will. A lot of them are actually not paid. I can look in my research in my notes here for those examples of that. But I want to ask you again. So in order for you to believe that there are detention centers, forced labor camps, where Uyghurs are being sent against their will, and where people are being forcibly sterilized, you would need footage of them sterilizing them in the hospital room? Is that what you're saying? And for you to believe that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Do you understand?
Just like the pics and footages in Abu Ghraib torture, right?
So do you understand that your standard is absolutely ridiculous, and that no normal human being acts this way? That you, in order to know whether or not that people are being forcibly sterilized, despite any documentation, if there's no footage, you just don't believe it. Do you understand how ridiculous that sounds?
Well, that's just your opinion.
That's not my opinion. Every human being with common sense knows that's ridiculous. If you have documentation of something from the government, from the companies, from the hospitals, if you have documentation from the government, from the companies, from the hospitals, and you have a paper trail, you have testimony from people who worked there, from people who were detained there, and for you to say that, but I didn't see the video footage, of them getting sterilized, that's ridiculous, and you know it's ridiculous.
Because this whole situation about Uyghurs doesn't make any sense.
Doesn't make any sense. Why doesn't it make sense?
Oh, I mean, the reason why there are vocational training centers and what China is doing to Xinjiang is because for the past 25 years, there has been terrorist attacks, extremism. People in Xinjiang are getting bombed, knifed, killed. What does China do? All right, let's provide people jobs. Let's counteract extremism.
So I'm glad that we've moved past the part where you're denying that this is happening and now moving past the part as to why it's okay.
How am I denying it's happening? I already told you that I don't believe in it because there's no concrete evidence.
Okay, so that's you going back to denying it's happening.
Are ridiculous.
I think it's very interesting. We're
not going to go anywhere near this.
I think it's very interesting. I didn't come here to argue that there's been no terrorist attacks ever. That was never my position. I don't know why you would assume I would make that argument. I'm not going to make that argument. But it's very interesting how you're so adamant to say, oh, there's no forced detention, there's no sterilization. And now you're giving me all the excuses why they might go ahead and do that because you're afraid that this group of people, this minority in the country is...
I'm not afraid, though. Because
if I could finish my sentence, thank you. So now you're giving me the reason why, well, there's extremism among the Muslim minority, and so that's why they're doing this. That's not an argument about whether or not it's happening. That's an argument about why they might do it. So you could talk about the terrorist attacks if you want.
There's actual footage of that happening.
I believe you. I just haven't done that research. You haven't done that research because you don't.
Do
you know why? Oh wait, do you know why?
Because you only listen to Western propaganda side.
Do you know why I didn't research that for this conversation? Do you want to know? Do you want to know why I didn't do that research for this conversation? Do you want to know why? It's because that wasn't the topic. Do you understand that that was not the topic? Whether or not that there were terrorist attacks by the Uyghurs against Chinese people?
Because it involves Xinjiang. That is the topic. That is why.
We are not arguing about whether or not...
How's it irrelevant? How's it irrelevant to what...
I'm trying to explain it to you, but you keep talking over me because you don't want me to explain it to you. Because you know that when I explain it to you... You know that when I explain it to you... You know that when I explain it to you, you're going to look a little foolish, and you don't want me to make my point, because you know that when I make it, you're going to look foolish. The reason why...
I'm speaking my opinions, and you're speaking facts.
You're not speaking your opinions, you're speaking over me, and it's very rude. And the reason why you're speaking over me is because you know that you look foolish when I actually get to make my point.
I'm saying you're speaking facts, I'm just speaking my opinion.
I don't care. I don't care what your opinion is about whether or not, you know, all Uyghurs or all Muslims are terrorists. I don't care. That's not the conversation that we were scheduled to have. We are not having a conversation about whether or not there are terrorist attacks done by the Uyghurs that might have led to China implementing this policy. We're arguing about is the policy forced sterilization and forced labor at detention camps. So you could talk about the terrorist attacks. I'm not arguing that they didn't happen. I just didn't do the research for this conversation because that was not the topic of this conversation.
All right, talk about sterilizations.
Let me drink a water here. Government statistics, state documents, and interviews with ex-detainees, including family members and a former detention camp instructor, show that there had been forced birth control implemented against Uyghurs by the Chinese government. They subject them also to pregnancy check, forces I don't know how to say this, intrauterine devices, actually that's exactly how you say it, sterilization, and abortions on the hundreds of thousands in order to rigidly enforce the family planning policies that China has. But they only implement these severe measures against the minority Uyghur Muslims. They don't implement that as severely against the Han Chinese. And you can see on a graph that I have here, I'll link it in the chat, the birth rate's dropping in the Uyghur areas in comparison to the national and the Hotan areas. So
all right, so I see the birth rate drops in Uyghur areas. Okay, and let's assume it's true. How come China's side says that it's not true at all?
Okay, can you provide me some evidence that it's not happening?
I mean, I thought this whole time you told me that if I provided evidence, you would completely ignore it.
That's what I asked you for evidence. I never said I would ignore it. I don't know what you're talking about. Can you please provide me evidence that...
Yes, I'll provide you evidence.
Thank you.
Lie number 2.
Yep.
Adrian Zenz released reports claiming Xinjiang has carried out forced sterilization on Uyghur women, resulting in a sharp decline in the Uyghur population.
Okay.
And it has a fact check for you.
Full of fabrications and data manipulation, so-called forced sterilization, the evidence is inconsistent with the facts. According to Data from China Health Statistics Yearbook. So what you're saying is they're citing the National Health Commission, which is part of the Chinese government, right?
I mean, these are the stats, and they counteract what the Five Eyes Alliance are saying.
Oh, the Five what Alliance?
The Five Eyes Alliance.
The Five Eyes.
The statements of the Five Eyes Alliance.
I actually don't know who the Five Eyes Alliance is. Could you illuminate me on that?
Oh, it's just America, Canada, New Zealand, Australia, and the British, or the UK.
Okay, so you're telling me that the governments of 5 different nations across a couple continents
are criticizing. They're criticizing China of doing sterilizations and rape on Uyghurs. They're claiming Chinese people are doing that to Uyghurs.
Yes.
But in China's side, they're saying, no, we're not. The Chinese people are supporting the Uyghurs and making their life safer and healthier. You know, it's just an opinion, right?
Do you understand? Do you understand that when 5 different countries point the finger at one country's government and provide statistics saying that they're driving down the birth rate of the minority, and then the government
for a reason.
I don't care what the reason is. I'm sure that you hate all Western countries and all their media is bad, blah, blah, blah. I understand that. And when the one country that's having the finger pointed at them goes, well, actually, we have our own statistics to say that we're not sterilizing people against their will. Do you understand how it seems like the evidence might be stacked against you? I mean, you're
How?
Because 5 different countries, multiple different countries, who all have trading. Who all have trading. What's the word I'm looking for? Relationships with this country, who would rather honestly stay on their good side. That's why they didn't do too much about it after this all came out. That's why Trump, as much as I hate him, didn't do much about it. And that's why Biden really hasn't done anything about it. There's countries that they have major investment in, or who have major investment in them, who have major trade relationships with, that they're coming out and saying, hey, they're doing some messed up stuff. And then the country is being accused saying that, oh, we have our own statistics saying we're not. Do you understand how, like, of course they're going to say that? That's not surprising. How is that evidence that it's not happening?
Well, of course they're going to say that, right? But the reason why I believe in China's side is because of the footages I've seen in the videos makes me believe China's side is right, and they make more sense. That's why I believe in China's side. And you do realize Muslim countries also support the policies in Xinjiang. You do realize that, right? Africa supports it too.
Africa supports it? I don't know why Africa is related.
And the majority of Muslim countries support the Xinjiang policies.
Why do I care?
Are you telling me that's a fake statistic too?
Why do I care what African countries think about China's Uyghur policy? Is it because they're all Muslims, so that means that that's now I have to listen to them?
I'm just pointing out that it's not 5 versus 1.
Xinjiang started tripling the hefty fines for violating family planning laws for even the poorest residents. The fines also applied to the Han Chinese, but only minorities were sent to the detention camps if they cannot pay the fines related to violating family planning. So if they had more than a couple kids, I don't remember what the number is exactly, they would say, hey, you're not allowed to do that. They would search your home for hidden kids, and then if they found any, they would, if you're pregnant, they would force you to get aborted, or they would send you to the detention camps. So this is stuff that has come from interviews with victims, with data from the leaks that we've been discussing, and the data from the Xinjiang hospitals.
It's not factual that it's leaked. You know what I mean? It's
not factual that it's leaked. Can you explain that to me?
All right. So you know how they leaked photos of Uyghurs. They're sitting down with their hands tied behind their back, or they're wearing like this blue outfit, or looks like there's footages of them being deported by trains. You know how they show that? Oh my God, Uyghurs, they have no violation. They have no freedom. It's a violation of human rights. This is crimes against humanity. There's real footage of that. You see, that's concrete evidence. But then in the reality is the context is they're not even Uyghurs.
I think there's something that is very funny here, and I do want to point this out so that maybe we can understand why we disagree so much. When I stick together what's true and what's not, and I think this is actually a little bit brain cancer. I don't go to random videos on the internet or online that show people beating people up or show someone on a train. I don't look at YouTube videos or wherever videos you're getting these from. This is not what I do when I research a topic. If you want to show me these videos and say they're fake, that's fine. These videos weren't part of my evidence in the first place. If you want to point to the specific outlets, or if they even were media outlets that were sending around these videos, unless you just saw them on social media, and say that they did something wrong by showing these videos without context, that's fine. You're free to do that. That doesn't disprove anything about whether or not China is engaging in these human rights violations.
There's too many lies, there's too much propaganda, and it's so hard to get around the truth of what's happening. That's why it's so hard for me to convince people that the situation in Xinjiang is not happening. And I've seen Western YouTubers, like people from Canada, one of the YouTubers named Daniel Dumbro.
No idea.
I believe he visited Xinjiang, and he has Uighur friends that tell them what's happening in Xinjiang. And they see otherwise, and they're in favor with the Chinese people. That's why,
Do you understand
it doesn't make any sense.
That's
why it doesn't make any sense.
Okay. Do you understand how it sounds a little rich for you to complain about propaganda when earlier, when we were talking about whether or not sterilization was happening, your response was to cite the Chinese government's statistics saying that it wasn't happening?
Yes, of course. No. Look, here's the thing.
So that's not propaganda. Just the propaganda you don't like, right?
Exactly.
Exactly. Yes, I agree.
You can send all these articles, all this, all that, right? And then I would make an excuse. Oh, it's just Western propaganda. They're lying, right? Blah blah blah. And then people would get offended, like, what the fuck's wrong with this kid, right? And then I send you my info, China's info. The propaganda cancels out, right? Oh, it's just China's propaganda, cancels out. Oh, it's just Western propaganda, cancels out. Now you have two stories. I choose the one that makes more sense to me, the one that has more concrete evidence to me, and that is why I chose China.
Okay, so this is irrational.
Yeah,
so you're saying that the videos that you're randomly searching and bumping into make no sense to you. You're looking at narratives you see through videos that are circulating on social media, and you're watching propaganda on both sides, and then you're watching, and then at the end of that process, you decide which propaganda makes the most sense to you, and you think this is a good process by which to determine what is true?
Whichever provides me more concrete evidence would convince me.
Okay, so, but by the way, evidence is the opposite of, like, providing evidence is different than propaganda, right? You understand that? Earlier, you made it sound like you were watching both sides propaganda, you didn't know what was true. Now you're saying, oh, you look for the evidence. You understand that these are two different descriptions of how you're doing this, right?
Not really. I think they're similar to each other.
You think evidence and propaganda is similar?
You can just straight up lie, right? And people would believe in people. People can straight up lie and they'll believe you, right? That's just how the world works.
I don't know how that addressed anything I just said. You understand that propaganda and evidence aren't the same thing, right?
Well, multiple countries believe in Uighur genocide, right?
Okay.
And there's multiple countries that back up China, believing that their policies are correct and that there is no Uighur genocide.
Which countries? I'm just curious.
No, I say the countries that are out of the Five Eyes Alliance.
Which ones?
Well, I can't name you right now because I have to search it up.
Okay, well, you know what? Search up. You might want to search that up before you use it in the argument. I don't know. As I expected you.
You probably sound really confident in that you think that you're owning me, but it's fine. You can think whatever you want.
I'm just like when you keep repeating, you've repeated that multiple times. So I started thinking I expected you to have an answer to that. It's just weird that you wouldn't.
Well, I mean, when I mentioned about the terrorism in Xinjiang, you're telling me, oh, you did zero research on that, blah 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 blah.
Correct, because that wasn't the topic we were discussing.
Well,
I know.
I didn't.
Maybe you need a caretaker.
I didn't laugh at you. Okay. I didn't laugh at you when you said that.
Well, that's because you shouldn't have, because it wasn't the topic of the conversation.
Well, I mean, I think I should have, because you're supposed to know everything about what's happening in Xinjiang.
No, I'm supposed to know everything about the topic that we were talking about.
Terrorism, because you want to believe that China's evil, and it fits your narrative.
Okay, so...
info that I provided you rejected your belief.
All right, repeat that 3 more times. All right, are you done? Are you done?
Yep.
Okay. So I am not simple-minded enough to believe that countries are inherently evil or inherently saints or inherently good or inherently bad. Also, again, you went back and said, "Oh, you should know everything about the topic. You don't know about this." No, I should know everything about what we agreed we were arguing about. I heard news about how the motivation for China was the terrorist attacks. I probably believe that happened because terrorism happens everywhere, and there are Muslim fundamentalists who commit terror. I just didn't research the specifics of that information because that wasn't the content of our conversation, and I'm not arrogant enough to think that without researching that I would know to what extent that extremism was happening. So I'm gonna give that to you because that has nothing to do with my argument. All right, go ahead.
And how come there's a policy that there's no such thing as a one-child policy on Uyghurs, but there's a one-child policy for the Han?
Are you telling me that there is no family planning laws that apply to the Uyghurs that limit the number of children that they have?
Uyghurs don't have the one-child policy.
I'm not asking you about the one-child policy. I'm asking you...
don't have the one-child policy at all.
I don't care. You can cut me off 20 times. It doesn't matter. Are you trying to tell me that there are no policies limiting the number of children that Uyghurs can have?
I didn't understand a single word what you just said.
Okay, that's probably because you were talking... I believe that you are smart enough to hear the question I'm giving you. It's just that you are afraid to answer it because you know that it makes your previous point completely pointless. Okay, so I will ask it one more time. Are you trying to tell me that there are no Chinese policies that limit the number of children that Uyghurs can have?
Well, yes, of course. There's no one-child policy for Uyghurs.
Okay, you did not answer my question. You did not answer my question because you talked about the one-child policy. That's not what I'm asking you about. Because there are probably other different policies that limit the number of children Uyghurs can have. You're just trying to point to this one and pretend like the others don't exist. It's really silly. I wasn't born yesterday. I'm going to ask you again. Don't give me the one-child policy in your answer because it's not what I'm asking about. Are you telling me there are no other policies that limit the number of children that Uyghurs can have in China?
I don't understand a word. I don't understand what.
What I'm telling you is that there are policies on the books, whether or not they're one-child policy or not, that limit the number of children Uyghurs can have. That is true.
What do you believe in? So you're saying that there are restrictions.
What do I believe in?
They can only have one child.
I didn't say they only had one child. Listen to the words coming out of my mouth because I've said this 20 times. You're pretending to not understand my question because you understand that your argument is falling apart. It's not the one-child policy, but there are other policies that limit the number of children Uyghurs can have.
Okay, there are other policies, but I don't believe in that.
But you don't believe in that.
Why? You know why? Because China's influence says otherwise. So I'm not gonna believe that, right? Unless there's concrete evidence. Oh, but you're gonna.
So you are okay. So the answer is yes. You are telling me that there are no other.
But then you say. But then there are leaked documents of Chinese doing restrictions on Uyghurs, and doing forced sterilizations of leaked documents from the Chinese government, right? But I'm not gonna believe that because it's propaganda. Yes, I believe that. Yes, I believe that.
China's family planning laws are international knowledge. They just don't apply. They don't just apply to Han Chinese. They have family planning laws for everyone in their country. Well, you're giving me a bold-faced lie because you couldn't bite the bullet on your argument. You tried to make an argument and you didn't realize I was going to catch you on it.
All right, so there's information, Western media, Adrian Zenz claiming that there's a sterilization in Xinjiang. Birth rates are going low, and the Uyghurs are facing violation of human rights and all that. It's from Adrian Zenz, but Adrian Zenz, from what I've seen, he works for the CIA. So the sources, they're not as trustful, in my opinion. That is why I don't really believe in these statistics, because this is all CIA related. And Adrian Zenz works for the CIA and Mike Pompeo.
Where do you see that Andrew Zenz works for the CIA? Can you send me information on that? Because that's not a matter of public record. I'm really curious how you know this about him.
Well, Mike Pompeo promotes Adrian Zenz, and Mike Pompeo, he's known to be an Islamophobe.
Okay,
Right?
so I hate
And Mike Pompeo supports Adrian Zenz. He supports him, and Adrian Zenz is the one that believes in sterilization.
Okay, so I think you asked me whether or not I asked you whether Andrew Zenz or Adrian Zenz, excuse me, whether Adrian Zenz or Mike Pompeo had a love affair. That wasn't really my question. You said he promoted him. You didn't give any specifics about that. My question was, how do you know Adrian Zenz works for the CIA?
Well, I can't find the exact words, but I've seen articles of it. Right?
You've seen articles saying that Adrian Zenz works for the CIA?
Articles and videos.
Wait,
videos.
You saw videos of him working for the CIA?
No, claims that he works for the CIA.
Okay, so you saw people. Okay, can we talk about this? You saw people on YouTube say that he works for the CIA, so you believed it, but you will not believe when I give you leaked government documents that sterilization statistics are accurate. Do you see how it's a little silly?
Well, yes, because there's not enough concrete evidence.
But it's concrete evidence that Adrian Zenz works for the CIA if a YouTuber says he does.
Well, I mean, the YouTuber said that while showing screenshots of everything of why Adrian Zenz is affiliated with the CIA.
So what was in those screenshots? Do you think there's a difference between linking a video made by a social media commentator and linking documents and statistics? Do you think these two things are different?
No, I think saying this and that, articles, blah blah blah, this is happening, the other side's denying it. I think it's the same thing.
Okay, so this might just be my biased Western school, upbringing, but when we talked about when I was a growing boy in like middle school and high school and on about how to get sources of information, articles were a yes and YouTube videos were a no. Are you telling me that the teachers who taught me that were wrong? It's a little rich that you can't believe the documents in the articles I'm linking you, but you believe this guy's YouTube video saying that Adrian Zenz works for the CIA when that doesn't even matter for anything, except for you to say that he's a liar, I guess.
No, just because there are leaked documents doesn't mean that that document is true. I don't think camps exist, so.
Wait, we have satellite images of the camps. How are you saying the camps don't exist? I thought you just thought that they were.
Well, the camps don't exist because it never existed.
I was under the impression that your argument was that they're just not going to the camps, against their own will. Now you're telling me the camps don't exist at all?
Well, they don't exist at all, and it's not necessarily a camp. It's more of a vocational training center.
Are there fences with barbed wire around these vocational centers?
Well, see, that's one of the things why I don't believe in Western propaganda, right? They say that, look at these barbed wires. Look at these fences, right? Oh, isn't that the same Western propaganda that showed footages of a Chinese man beating up a Uyghur, even though it's an Indonesian police beating up a thief?
Okay, I don't know where you got this YouTube video. I don't know what YouTuber you saw who posted that video and said it was a Uyghur. I'm not terribly invested in that because that's not part of my argument. Again, so it sounds like we moved again.
It's the same thing.
It sounds like we moved again. Sounds like we moved again to saying that they do exist. They're just vocational centers.
Well, they don't exist.
Okay.
Camps don't exist.
So there are no vocational centers and no camps.
No. Well,
so there are vocational centers, and that's what people think are concentration camps.
Exist, but camps don't exist.
Okay. So
because a concentration camp would be like a violation of human rights, oppression, blah 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 blah.
Okay.
Crimes against humanity.
Right.
That would be considered a concentration camp, right? A Holocaust. But it's not, because that's not what it's happening.
Okay, so to be clear, your argument is that the centers that I have satellite images of, they exist, but they are not detention centers. They are vocational centers. That's your argument, right?
Well, I mean, the satellite images, right? There's people saying that those aren't even detention centers, and it's out of context.
There are people saying. Who are the people saying, and why do you believe them? Okay.
It's still vague. It's still vague.
It's still vague. That says that. Do you understand that's not an argument?
It's vague.
What's vague about a satellite image? Can you explain that to me? That doesn't make any sense.
Because you can lie about the labels of the buildings. I mean, the thing is, I've seen this, and I've seen other people argue that these pics are out of context.
Do you? Okay,
And-
but can you explain
No,
what the
they're out of
context is?
Like there's a possibility that this is not even in Xinjiang at all.
Okay, you're saying there's a possibility, but you're being a little wishy-washy and vague yourself in your answer.
Yes, I'm being vague myself in my answers because I can't pull up an article like immediately right now because I've seen many videos and many people talking about this discussion.
Hundreds of YouTube videos, huh?
Concrete evidence of what's happening is interviewing Uyghurs in Xinjiang of what's happening.
Why are you citing interviews with Uyghurs who aren't in the centers as opposed to Uyghurs who got out of the centers and said that bad stuff was happening there? Why do you hold the former over the latter?
Well, I mean, the Uyghurs that got out of the centers and claimed that they got raped and killed and all that, they
wouldn't claim they got killed because they're alive, right?
And no, they seen. Oh, you're right. They got raped and they seen people get killed. There you go.
Okay.
And China's saying that what she's saying is false. And there are no information of that person being sterilized.
There is information of them being sterilized. There are hospital records have been leaked. There's, government documents.
Yeah, but that's Western propagandas. That's Western propaganda.
How are leaked government documents and hospital records Western propaganda? Can you explain that to me?
Because you can just say, oh, it's leaked documents. You can just straight up lie and say, oh, leaked documents. Whoever provides more detailed information on what's going on. You see the screenshot I sent you?
I provide you a lot of detailed information about what's going on, and your response has been YouTube videos. That's not detailed responses. That's a YouTube video. That's commentary.
YouTube videos, and
commentary isn't evidence of anything. I have a guy who I watch all the time, and I would never, for one of my conversations, just link something a video he made on the topic to prove my point.
Well, tell me that Uyghur is a liar. That Uyghur, and you know what people say? Oh, that Uyghur is being paid by the CCP. Oh, well,
he's not being paid. He's being paid in that he doesn't get to die that night. That's what he's getting paid in, right?
No.
Or he has to get shipped off to the camp himself. Do you deny that the Chinese government has a habit of crushing dissent in media, controlling the media, and putting out very prepared, very sterilized information out to the public and basically cracking down with law enforcement on dissenters? Do you agree that is something that has happened, or do you deny that?
I really don't know.
Okay, so I believe that is what happens, which is why I believe that any Uyghurs who said that nothing was going wrong were probably afraid that they were going to be on the wrath of the government if they said anything. You use the term Western media in almost every single sentence that you say, and makes it very clear that your rationale for holding the position you hold isn't based on the weight of the evidence on one side or the other. It's because somehow, some way, you got this idea in your head that if it comes from Western media, it must be a lie. And, that has just infected your thinking to the point where it doesn't matter what Western media says or how much evidence they have to back them up. You're just going to call it all lies anyway and back the opposition because Western media bad.
I just lost trust in Western media. Everything they told me about for the past 20 years, you can just send me articles and I won't believe that. I can send you YouTube videos and you won't believe that. So
I think it's clear to anyone who's ever going to watch this that the hilarious difference between the guy who thinks sending a YouTube video is the same as sending an article. I mean, I honestly, God, I think you need a little bit more practice doing this, because I think if you had thought about that for 2 seconds, you would realize that would probably make you not look very credible.
I don't really care if I'm credible or not.
I understand you don't care. That's why you have such a crap position, because you don't care about what's true and what isn't.
I just believe what my heart tells me and what makes more sense.
That does make a lot of sense if that's what you do, and that's probably why you arrived at such a ridiculous conclusion. That tends to happen when you just follow your gut and think you know everything. It seems a little arrogant, but you do you.
Okay, I don't think I know everything, but it's just my opinion.
Then why would you follow your gut instead of looking into it?
Because the information that I've seen makes more sense.
Okay, so that has nothing to do with following your gut. Now you say that you're looking at information. Do you understand that you're giving me two different answers here?
No. Here's the thing. What I believe in is I believe that Chinese people made Chinese Muslims live a safer and healthier life because of the things I've seen. Right? Articles, videos. In my opinion, I think China does they lean towards more censorship.
Okay.
In Western propaganda, they lean towards more of a over-exaggeration of what's happening.
Okay.
That's my opinion, not facts. My opinion.
Sure. So
China
we're
leads to censorship, and
okay.
there'll be some cases where something bad happens to China, and China, they want to censor things.
So we're willing to concede at least that China does censor some information that it feels is inconvenient to its own narrative. The government does, right?
Yes.
Okay. Do we think that that might have an impact on the opinion and the attitude of Chinese people towards this issue, or Uyghurs who aren't in the camps towards this issue, if they had information that wasn't censored?
Well, I don't know. I really don't know.
I feel like it might.
It's censored.
I feel like
because there's some censorship where it positively impacts people or the citizens.
Wait, what is censorship that positively impacts the people?
Well, there are some censorships that can positively impact people.
Can you give me an example of that?
Like let's say illegal porn. Illegal porn.
Okay. I have a feeling that's not related to what we were talking about with China though,
Illegal
right?
porn or
Of course.
or any censorship that is people that are being demonized,
When you say people that are being demonized, what do you mean?
Oh, like Chinese people being demonized.
In what way?
Like, China started the coronavirus. They have a Wuhan lab, and they're infecting the world, and that Chinese people are evil and disgusting.
Of course. So I agree that conspiracy theory was incorrect and that China didn't intentionally start it. That's bullshit. That was started by Trump, who is our former president. He was an asshole. So a minute ago, you conceded that China will sometimes censor information more to preserve its own image and preserve its own dignity, and to stop bad things that might make it look bad getting into the public eye. And now you're turning around. You're telling me that you believe this isn't happening because the information that China puts out, which you agree can be censored a lot of the time to make it look better, is saying that they didn't do it. Do you think that this is contradictory? Because I think you're contradicting yourself.
No, it's not contradictory because I don't think every single topic of what China's saying is considered correct. Because I saw Uyghurs saying that their lives are better now and safer, and then they make more money because they have jobs. And the reason why they have jobs is because they learn skills.
Have you ever heard the expression, the plural of anecdote is not data? Have you ever heard that?
No, because I don't really give a shit about that. And I don't really care about how people try to talk smart. I just want to get to the point.
You can call it talking smart if you want. An anecdote, it means like a personal story. This is the point. That's the
story, and it convinced me.
Okay.
It convinced me.
So the reason why
that's not the only story. There's multiple stories.
The reason why we say that a collection of personal stories is not data is because if you were to go out, depending on your intentions, you could collect
data, in my opinion.
If I was to finish, if you go out, you could collect a number of personal stories that could prove literally anything in the world. You could prove any bullshit claim based on a collection of personal stories.
Everything that I said, it is just my opinion, not facts. The things that I've seen about Xinjiang, I believe that China is helping Uyghurs. And it's just my opinion. It is not facts.
Okay, and in my conversation, I have kept out all of my personal opinions about whether or not I personally like the Chinese government or whether I like the US government aside. And I have looked at the reporting, I have looked at the documents, I have looked at the satellite images, and I have used the facts to make my argument, not my personal feelings about the credibility of the Chinese media or the credibility of the Western media. And that is why I believe the difference is.
What is the purpose? What is the purpose for Chinese people to do that to their own people?
The reason, there could be a number of motivations. One motivation is that they want to make sure that Han Chinese remain the majority, so they want to make sure that the minorities reproduce at a lower birth rate. They might as well actually fear some extremism from the Muslim minority, so they might be doing this intentionally to curb the number of Uyghurs that are there because they fear extremism. Those are just two motivations off the top of my head that might explain why they're doing this.
Well, I don't even think it comes from the Uyghur children itself. because I think that information is fabricated. That would be the same source. That would be the same source of.
So no Uyghurs refer to their past heritage as coming from East Turkestan.
Video protests. That would be the same source of video protests.
Okay, I'm going to ask the question again. So no Uyghurs ever talk about the fact that their past heritage a couple hundred years ago was that they used to be from East Turkestan. No Uyghurs ever talk about that. Then why are they wearing the mask? They're literally wearing the mask to illustrate that point.
Well, I don't think they do say that because...
Then why are they wearing the mask?
Well, because...
What is that? USA Today journalist wearing the mask, covering as a Uyghur child? Is that what you're saying? I don't understand.
No, because they're most likely funded by Falun Gong, and Falun Gong works for the CIA, and Falun Gong makes stories about these people are Uyghur and they hate China, right? Even though in reality they're not even Uyghurs because they're funded by the CIA, and they're a group called Falun Gong. Because that child isn't a Uyghur. What are you talking about?
How do you know this? You're saying this without any basis or evidence. You're just saying they're not a Uyghur.
Why are Uyghur children being anti-Chinese when Chinese sources says that they are protecting the Uyghurs and making their life better?
Okay, so now you're saying that the Uyghur children are anti-Chinese. So you're saying they are doing that.
I'm not saying. I was saying, why would they think that? Why are they
Wait, this is very interesting. You have talked about how there's a lot of extremism.
When Chinese people support the Uyghurs and the Uyghurs support China.
Okay, so I'm going to make my point now. Okay, so it's very interesting that you talked a lot about how there are Uyghurs who are extremists and can be violent, and that's why China decided to make changes in the first place. And now you're pretending that it's totally unbelievable that this Uyghur child might be wearing this mask from when they were from East Turkestan 200 years ago, and wearing a mask that shows dissent against China. So are there extremists among the Uyghurs who don't like China, or are there not? Because you can't have it both ways.
I don't think it's a contradiction.
Are there Uyghurs who are unhappy with China, or no?
No.
There are no Uyghurs who are unhappy with China. Then why do they carry out terrorist attacks in Xinjiang?
No, I would say a generalization. Yeah, that's what I think about. Why are there terrorist attacks in Xinjiang? And you know what? Some sources says that the terrorists are funded by the CIA.
So it has nothing to do with them being Muslim. It's all just CIA paying Muslims to commit terrorist attacks. Is that it? This is so ridiculous. Okay, so you actually don't believe they're terrorists because they're Muslim. Which is good, I guess. You're not assuming they're all terrorists because they're all just paid by every single terrorist that ever committed an attack in Xinjiang is part of the CIA. So let me ask you this. If that's the case, then why did China's policy reduce all the terrorist attacks to zero like you claimed? Because that doesn't make any sense. The CIA didn't stop paying them, did they?
No, because there are zero attacks in Xinjiang since 2017 because of the vocational training centers.
Wait, how did the vocational training centers stop the CIA from paying Uyghurs to commit terrorist attacks?
Well, I mean, that started probably in the 1990s.
That didn't answer my question. So you just tried to say that all the Uyghur terrorism was because of the CIA, and you're saying that vocational centers stopped it all. That doesn't make any sense. You're just making this up.
There's certain branches. There's other branches where
either you bite the bullet on the CIA thing or you don't. I can't help you here. You hung yourself here.
The Chinese people.
You walked yourself in the circle.
Chinese people are re-educating the terrorists, right? Tell them to stop bombing, stop knifing, right? Learn some skills, right? Get a job.
So it had nothing to do with the CIA, and it was because of the training.
Be peaceful with the Chinese people, right? But in very rare cases, right? There are some people that you can't convince them to be a anti-terrorist
because the CIA is paying them too much, right? Am I right?
Well, I think that's true.
Okay, so wait. So then, how did if they're being paid by the CIA, how did vocational training make them stop being terrorists?
Well, I mean, the vocational training centers are most likely the people that has no affiliations with terrorism.
What caused terrorism? The CIA or the training? Which one was it? Was it the CIA or was it the vocational training?
I think CIA caused terrorism.
Okay, so it had nothing to do with the vocational centers and the training and the jobs.
Vocational training centers are training Uyghurs to learn skills and to not be influenced under extremism. Because
so you're saying it was religious extremism now, so it had nothing to do with the CIA. Do you see how we're running back and forth? It's because you can't make up your own mind, because you're just saying stuff that comes to your mind and not thinking about whether it's true or not. You just randomly blame everything on the CIA, and then you try to pretend like, oh, well, actually, the vocational training stopped it. You never thought through your own argument, so you revealed that you were, being full of it.
Oh, Chinese people, they did a lockdown in February 2020. A full lockdown. Super strict laws. You know what Western media says? Oh, they're taking draconian measures. Oh, it's a violation of human rights.
But that wasn't what they were complaining to you.
There's anti-maskers.
I understand that.
Fucking retarded people.
I understand that. There are a lot of people in my country are really fucking stupid. I understand that.
Chinese people, they do draconian lockdowns. They say that while at the same time, they say that 5 million Chinese people died from the virus, and that the numbers of the coronavirus is made up and fake. So what's the point in a lockdown then?
Wait, so do you not believe that?
How can 5 million Chinese people die when they do the most extreme measures of a lockdown and they obey their government?
Probably because they didn't do it soon enough, because they initially tried to deny it, and probably because it's where the pandemic started. So are you telling me that millions of Chinese people didn't die there?
100%. And I don't think the pandemic.
Okay, so you called the anti-mask. Wait! I gotta call you out of this. You called the anti-maskers in my country retarded, and I agree with you. They are retarded, but you're doing the same bullshit that they do. You're literally just like them. You're denying that people were dying from the virus. What the hell?
I'm denying people are dying from the virus. I'm denying that there's no such thing as 5 million Chinese people that got killed from the virus.
So you don't believe that they were slow to respond to the outbreak?
Of course people died. Of course people died, but not 5 million Chinese people.
Did the Chinese government initially deny that the spread was happening?
In March 2020. I don't believe that. I don't believe that 2 months in the coronavirus, 5 million people already died in China. No.
Do you believe that in the beginning, China started by denying that the problem was happening? Did that happen or did that not happen?
Well, I don't know for sure, because when the virus came, right?
Because that's why millions of people died.
All I gotta say is, I still don't know where the origins of the virus came from. It's still yet to be discovered.
I agree. It's still yet to be discovered. We still don't know.
But yeah, exactly. So you can't be 100% for sure. Oh, it came from Wuhan. It came from this, that. And then there's some people says no, it came from America. Ford Detrick Lab. Oh, blah blah blah. Right. It's still yet to be discovered.
Are you trying to say that you believe it came from the West?
No, I said it's still yet to be discovered.
All right. I feel like you did the thing that extremists do, where they they put something out as a suggestion. I'm just saying. I was wondering why you were throwing that out there. I felt like you were trying to slide that my way, like a crypto whatever. Trying to slide me the JQ. So.
Because I agree with the Chinese people and their social media.
Of course you do. Who wouldn't agree with people on social media? They're always so rational there. Anyway, as I was saying, social media, as we all know, is very good for the human brain.
All I know is Chinese people made Chinese Muslims' lives better and safer and healthier.
Yeah, you repeat that 8 more times, buddy. If you repeat it 8 more, it'll be more convincing, and you might convince people that don't already agree with you.
In your brain, you want to believe that Chinese people are evil.
Do you remember?
It's all good though.
Do you remember the part of the conversation where I specifically said that it wasn't because that, and that was because the Chinese government censored the information they have access to? A point that you admitted to, by the way, which makes you look really fucking stupid when you decide to use China government their version of statistics.
I don't think it makes me stupid.
You don't think it's stupid to take the word of a government you admit censors information it gives out to people?
Yo.
Okay.
Yo.
So anyway, I wanted to ask you about that. Earlier, you asked me what motivation China could have to genocide Uyghurs, and I gave you the motivation that I believe that they had. What would be the incentive for the United States, Canada, and the other 3 countries that you hate so much to lie and pretend like China is genociding a minority when they're actually not? Can you give me that motivation, please? Why would they say? Why would they lie about that?
Well, because they're fake about it.
That's not an answer. What's their motivation?
No, let me talk. Let me talk for 1 minute. Oh no, you got all these Western people. all these Western people, I love Chinese Muslims, I love Uyghurs, stop raping and killing them, stop doing all this, right? But when I see that, it is not genuine. They don't give a fuck about Chinese Muslims. They don't give a fuck about Chinese
You're not answering my question. It's very funny, but keep going. You're making yourself look dumber and dumber as you continue to not answer my question.
If Westernized people really genuinely care about Chinese Muslims, they would do more deep research on what's going on, right? There's people that talk about...
You mean like watching more YouTube videos, right? Because one of us has done research for this conversation, and it wasn't you, bud, but keep going.
In favor of China's side on what's happening to Xinjiang.
What was the question I asked you that led you to say all that? Do you remember what my question was? Was I asking you whether or not Americans love Chinese Muslims, or what was my question? Do you remember?
Yeah, you're saying that why are Western media calling out China's crimes on Chinese people raping Chinese Muslims?
Yeah, what's their motivation? Okay, so you understand that you did not answer my question, right?
No, what's their motivation?
Yes.
To demonize China.
Yes.
So that
why?
Because the reason why they're demonizing China is because the Chinese people, they're making their country economically the most powerful in the future.
And then, so why would they demonize them? Why would they get on China's bad side if that's the case? That makes the opposite of sense.
Because they're Chinese.
Okay.
They're not Anglos. They're not Anglos. They're like, these guys are, they're fucking Chinese. They're fucking communism. They're fucking communists. They're fucking commies. Fucking evil Chinese motherfuckers. No, we don't want that. We're Anglos. We're not gonna let China become the #1 power in the world.
You realize that no one in the West calls themselves Anglos. You understand that, right? You're the one who obsessively uses that term. No one in the West here uses that term.
Yeah, I know that.
You're saying you're still not answering my question, right? You haven't given me a motivation.
If China all of a sudden become the #1 country in the world, it would defy their beliefs. They'd be like, "What the fuck?"
Then why are we helping them do that by being trade partners with them?
China's a communist country. They're fucking evil. They don't belong to me, #1. Australia and China, they're really good trading partners, right? Exactly. And why is Australia demonizing China? That's the thing. It makes no fucking sense.
Do you think... Wait.
I'm pretty sure China...
You just pointed out that it makes no sense. You just pointed out that it makes no sense for the US and all these countries to demonize China when they're trading partners with them. Do you realize that the thing that doesn't make sense is you? Do you realize that you're the one who doesn't make sense here?
No.
Because you're saying that the United States and Canada and Australia and the European countries are all acting against their own interest to get on the bad side of China when that's something they wouldn't normally want to do. And you're saying it makes no sense.
Yes.
What you're saying is, hey, Zaler, I make no sense. I make no sense and I'm full of shit. That's what you're saying. There's no motivation that the United States would have and that Canada would have and all these other European countries would have to fuck with China in this way if it wasn't true.